You cannot just cut this lock. This is a violation of the homeowner agreement rules section 3B. Stop what you are doing right now or I will call the sheriff.
The first thing I saw was blue lights bouncing off my kitchen window, and the first thing I smelled was wet asphalt and burnt coffee from the cop's cup as I stepped onto my porch at 4:27 a.m. on May 3, 2024. 2 officers were standing there like I'd robbed my own lake. One of them said, "We got a trespass call at the shoreline dock." I blinked into the cold air and pointed past them toward the water. "That dock is mine. My name is on the deed." The younger cop looked tired, like he knew this was dumb. Then my phone buzzed again. Another HOA alert. Another rule. Another threat. I walked down with the officers, my slippers soaking, and my stomach dropped when my flashlight hit the metal ladder. A bright silver padlock was clamped through it like handcuffs. By sunrise, I was staring at it for real, hands shaking, hearing the birds and the soft slap of waves like the lake was laughing at me. That ladder was how my kids got out of the water. Now it was locked tight, and somebody had zip-tied a neon tag to the rail that read safety violation. I got an email at 9 a.m. from the HOA president, Marlene, the kind of woman who smiles while she swings the hammer. She wrote that 3 neighbors complained and the ladder had been installed without approval, so the HOA secured it for everyone's safety. She even added a little smiley face. I replied fast and polite. I told her the ladder came with the dock, it was bolted, and it had been there for years. I asked who touched my property in the dark. No answer. When I called, her voicemail said she was in a board workshop. I could almost hear the word workshop in air quotes. That afternoon I marched to Marlene's porch, still trying to be reasonable. I could see my own dock from her living room window, which felt like a clue and a problem at the same time. She opened the door and stood there with that tight grin. I said, "Marlene, you can't padlock my ladder. My kids use that." She said, "The board voted. You had 48 hours to remove hazards." I said, 48 hours from what? I never got a notice. She waved a paper like it was a magic spell. It was taped to my mailbox in the rain, half soaked, dated May 1, 2024. She leaned in and said, "We are just trying to prevent accidents." Then she added, "And please stop letting guests use the shoreline." My neighbor across the street peeked through blinds like a hostage. Nobody wanted to be seen agreeing with me. When I asked for the vote record, Marlene said, "That's internal business." When I asked for the key, she said, "Not until compliance." That night, I sat at my kitchen table with the padlock tag in front of me, feeling angry and dumb and a little scared, because someone had no problem calling cops on me at 4:27 a.m. I decided right then I was not cutting anything, not yelling, not doing anything that could spin me into the villain. Proper channels only. I opened my laptop and pulled up my closing papers. That's when I remembered the words my realtor said 2 years ago, "Riparian rights." I dug until I found the survey map with the shoreline lines and the dock box drawn in ink. Then I started building my case like a weirdo on a mission. I lined up photos, emails, and call logs in a binder. Close-ups of the lock. Screenshots of the HOA email. A video of my kids using the ladder safely last summer. I even printed the HOA bylaws where it said they manage common areas, not private waterfront structures. The next morning, May 4, 2024, I went to the county office like I was paying a parking ticket, calm face, hot anger in my ribs. I asked for public records on shoreline permits, plats, and any HOA filings tied to our lakefront strip. The clerk didn't blink. She slid a form to me and said, "That'll be $10. I paid it and waited. 2 days later, the file landed with 63 pages. There it was in black and white, my lot had legal access to the water, and the dock footprint was tied to the property. It also said the HOA had no authority to block access to the water as long as the structure met code. I called the county inspector and asked one simple question. Can an HOA lock a ladder on a private dock? He paused, then said, not if it interferes with riparian access. I wrote that down like it was gold. Then I built a simple timeline so nobody could twist the story. I even wrote it plain, timeline item 1 May 3rd at 4:27 a.m. false trespass call. I sent Marlene a certified letter that same day, May 6, 2024, at 2:11 p.m., with copies of the survey and the county record page. I asked for the lock removed by 9 p.m. or I would file formal complaints with the county and the state waterway office. I also wrote one sentence that made my hands stop shaking: patterns of false reports can be prosecuted. I wasn't threatening her. I was stating a fact, because I had 2 police incident numbers now, both for my own shoreline. Then I asked for one more thing, a special open board meeting at the clubhouse, so this could be handled in front of everyone. Funny how fast she answered after that. She scheduled it for May 8, 2024, 7 p.m., and told me to keep it respectful. Like I was the one padlocking ladders in the dark. The night of the meeting, the clubhouse smelled like old carpet and lemon cleaner, and the air felt thick with gossip. Half the neighborhood showed up, not because they loved meetings, but because drama is the only free TV left. I walked in with my binder, and behind me came the county inspector in a plain polo, holding his own folder. Marlene's smile fell like a bad curtain. She started talking about safety and community standards, and she kept saying the ladder was a hazard, like the word hazard would make the law disappear. I stood up and said, "This is what this fight is about." HOA padlocked my lake dock ladder for safety after 48 hours, then I pulled the riparian rights. A few people snorted. Someone lifted a phone to film. I flipped open my binder and slid copies down the table. The inspector cleared his throat and said the dock and ladder were on private property, and blocking lake access could violate state riparian rules. He asked Marlene who placed the lock. Marlene tried to say it was maintenance. The inspector said, then maintenance can remove it, tonight. The room got quiet, then loud. One guy whispered, "She really called the cops on him?" Another lady said, "That ladder has been there forever." Marlene's cheeks went bright red. The board treasurer stared at his shoes like they were safer than her eyes. After that, everything moved fast, like once the truth had air, it couldn't be stuffed back in a drawer. The inspector issued a notice on the spot and told the board they had 72 hours to correct the interference or face fines. The sheriff's deputy who happened to live in our neighborhood stood up and said, "And stop using 911 as a weapon. That's not what it's for." Marlene tried to argue, but the room was already done with her. 2 neighbors pulled up their own emails about petty warnings, like grass height and trash cans, and suddenly it wasn't just my ladder. It was her. By 8:20 p.m., Marlene walked out with the maintenance guy and a bolt cutter, and a crowd followed like it was a parade. She cut the padlock off my ladder in front of everyone, hands shaking so hard the cutter slipped once. Somebody laughed, and it wasn't me, but I didn't mind. The next week, the HOA paid a $500 county penalty, and Marlene stepped down after a recall petition hit 21 signatures in one day. On May 16, 2024, at 6:30 p.m., my kids climbed that ladder again, dripping and smiling, and my neighbor across the street finally waved like he wasn't scared anymore. Please follow for more HOA showdowns like this. Do you think she got what she deserves? Comment below.